Okay, so this would be a feedback slash critique for Berserk. I, you know the drill. I've given you feedback before. I am not a Tekken professional. I'm just someone who enjoys Tekken. So, take what I say with a grain of salt. All right. I was watching my previous feedback to you, trying to see like what areas we talked about before, and if those areas have improved, or if you still need to work on stuff. I feel like you've made definite improvements, right? I was watching the old matches against like the Heihachi. It was like a completely different player, right? So solid. I think there are solid improvements in your patience, in your avoiding big commitment moves and stuff like that, and a lot more tighter punishing. So all of that being said, there are some areas where I think you can stand to improve upon more, right? So a running theme throughout this set, throughout this law match that I saw was you had very good patience. You didn't overcommit on a lot of stuff. You had pretty solid punishment. But I feel like you could have put on more pressure, right? What do I mean by that? Your patient gameplay kind of let your opponent press more shit and just do more stuff than he should have, right? And I'll try to point out these areas as I notice them, and there's just some areas that kind of stood out to me, right? And in my opinion, if you're going to focus on kind of like a defensive playing style or a more compact playing style, there's kind of like there's always more, right? But I'm going to focus on two main areas, two main routes you can take, right? You can focus more on compact style, but a lot more aggressive poking. Think something like Jamie's gameplay where he's always just chipping down the opponent constantly, right? Or just completely compact, no commitment on any single thing unless you know it's going to work, but your punishment is on point, right? Those are the two main ways you're going to be able to create a lot of pressure and get more mistakes out of your opponent, because currently I feel like you're not doing enough to force mistakes out of the law, and then when he does make some mistakes, you're not doing enough to punish it, right? And I feel like you've got your gameplay covered, right? Your gameplay is solid. I don't really see any areas where I'm kind of like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here, right? But more so, I feel that you should be trying to take into account what your opponent is doing a little bit more and start formulating a game plan around that, right? I'm just going to focus on this first match. If you feel that anything I talk about in here or the overall video, there's a better match to review or something to showcase, let me know. I'm always down to do kind of like a run back on a different match and see how I feel about it, right? But those are the things to think about, right? When you're playing this compact defensive style, right? How are you going to be able to put pressure on your opponent? Sometimes that's going to be aggressive poking. Sometimes it's going to be just, complete punishment, just like punish every little mistake that he does. But you need to do something to start whittling away more at the life of your opponent, a little bit more than you are now, right? So let's look at some areas. Let's look at the match and see where we can do. Oh, this is really loud. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's still kind of loud. Let me lower it. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. So like right here, forward, neutral 2. You are +7, right? Immediate, down forward 2. But why? What was the reasoning going into this? Why immediately enforce with kind of like a punishable mid option? And I don't think Law is like a slouch in the 12 frame punish department. I think he gets a decent 12 frame punish, I'm pretty sure. So why the immediate down forward 2? Is this the first? He's got a few wins ahead of you. If this is your first game, is he someone that likes to press a lot under pressure, right? What about his gameplay would lead you to go, I need to press down forward 2 here? Why is it an issue? Because how often, like, you took a pretty decent risk at going for forward neutral 2, right? As decent as it gets in Tekken 7, and got rewarded with +7, which is a pretty huge momentum lead, right? Obviously now you're in like a throw mid mix up. But I feel like there are better mids you could be doing here, right? Obviously, they're not counter hit launchers. But I feel like if you are not going for a counter hit launcher, right? If you're I feel like you don't necessarily always have to go for the counter hit launcher. If you're just doing like a mid check, so okay. My thought process, based on this current situation, if you have not played against this player before, right? If you haven't had these like previous rounds to gain info on him, then I feel like there could be safer mid checks you do in order to gauge your opponent's responses, right? So think about your tools in sort of like some different categories, right? Like, yes, there's pokes, there's power moves, there's small Tekken, big Tekken. But another thing to consider are also like your information gathering tools. What are the moves you could be using to gain info on your opponent and then using that knowledge against them, right? Using that information against them. So down forward 1 should be a critical information gathering tool. Everything your opponent does based on reactions to that move, and also anything your opponent does to your jabs, is information you could be using to better set up like a trap, right? Think of it like, yes, AK is not very a setup oriented character, right? But we're not focusing on set play and Oki. We're just looking at what does our opponent like to do? How can we punish them for doing that? And how are you going to figure out what your opponent likes to do, right? You're going to constantly test their reactions, test their responses to what you do, right? So at +7, right, does your down forward 1 counter, well, I don't know if you can tell if down forward 1 counter hit, but does your down forward 1 hit, right? That means they're either pressing something they shouldn't or they're ducking, right? And does it get blocked? It's like, okay, well, now there's like a decent chance that they're going to stand block your down forward 1 because they know you'll like to do it, and that can set up for a throw, right? I feel like there's still work that needs to be done in terms of how you set up your offense and your big pushes. Think of it like you need to be using more down forward 1 because it's less commitment heavy than down forward 2, right? Even though both are obviously good options, because you need to start focusing more on like, how do I set up the throw? How do I condition him to keep stand blocking and then go for a throw mix-up situation, right? And put him and reset his layer back to 1. So down forward 1 in that situation gives you more information to work with. If it hits, you're like, okay, cool, I get plus frames again because down forward 1's like +7, I'm pretty sure. And then you get to do, hey, is it going to be a throw or mid, right? You get to spin the wheel again. And if it gets blocked, you're like, all right, cool, right? He's gonna be stand blocking this more, right? So then you can set that up, right? Like think about these branching paths, right? Down forward 1 gets blocked, cool. Next time down forward 1 gets blocked, or the situation that led to down forward 1 getting blocked, which in this case was forward neutral 2, you can then be like, okay, in this previous interaction, he was ready. He just stand blocked, right? And if you've conditioned him enough, you'll just be like, I think he's going to keep stand blocking. Time to go for a throw mix-up, right? Or if you feel that you're like, okay, I would want to instead go for down forward 1 into down forward 1 or down forward 1 into jab to just keep like conditioning him to set him, to soften him up for the throws, right? A lot of branching paths, and each of those paths gives you more low commitment options to gain information on your opponent to figure out what he likes to do, which you can then use against him in future interactions, which is the main goal here, right? So look out for those opportunities, right? When in the early rounds, when you're still trying to figure out what your opponent likes to do. I mean, this guy just seems to look like he likes to press buttons, right? You know, be on the lookout for that. Right. That's whatever. Nice. Nice. Wait, that's -15? Holy shit, that's really funny. Unfortunate timing. Oh, yeah, I mean, you can see what's on the screen. I'm not going to be talking about punishment stuff that much. Look up a video, do your practice, tighten up your punishment. Especially big things like this, when it's a launch punish. You'd have to check in training mode if AK hop kick reaches, right? Because unfortunately, that do be the AK life, right? Your hop kick's just kind of trash. and doing 15 frame block punish dark upper, you know, it's easier said than done, but I digress. Actually, yeah, back 1-2 is not that bad. I think that's fine. Oh, nice. So, context, right? Like, this is something also... Wait. Oh, that's so interesting. I thought banana peel, yeah. Huh. This is tough. So you had the right idea. Your sidestep was on point, but obviously Dark Harbor didn't reach. But that's something to also consider in these sort of matchup specific. This is more like matchup specific, right? But now you know in the future that, hey, banana peel leaves him crouching, so you have to do hop kick or you have to do some mid whiff punish, right? You can't rely on Dark Harbor. Just stuff to keep in mind, right? Nice sidestep. Okay, so this is also okay. You backdash slightly, and then here, right? You immediately go for CD4 or CD while standing 4. This is the area I'm talking about where we want to focus on optimizations here, right? You know. This should have been forward 2-1, but that's something to keep in mind in the future, right? Try to make conscious effort to hang back a little bit and visually confirm what your opponent does and how to deal with that, right? So if you look at this situation, right, he just did toe kick, right? Toe kick leaves the opponent standing, and you have a huge. If it doesn't hit you, the whiff recovery is very long, meaning you got a lot of time to work with, right? So, not gonna harp on it too much, but this is the area I'm trying to point out, right? Here, if you optimize your punish, right, you could have had a huge momentum swing in your favor, and then go back to that compact playing style, which law can be difficult. Like if the player isn't good, law can have a hard time opening people up, right? He has to approach them. He has to take risks. Like, what is Law going to do to you at, like, range 3? Actually, sorry. Different discussion, right? But these are the areas I'm trying to point out. When you watch your gameplay, when you play in a game, try to visually recognize situations where you could have just beat their ass harder, right? I don't know any way to say it besides that, but your punishment is going to be critical in order to make your compact playstyle threatening, right? If you're going to be so I feel like you're a little bit passive on the neutral situation, right? I don't think that's a negative thing, but whenever you get these big punishment opportunities, optimizing your punishes here is what's critical to making that playstyle effective. If you're very passive in your punishment, right? Look at this. Look at the damage you get from wall standing 4, right? Versus if you got like a forward 2-1 here, right? So that's stuff you need to think about like what is going to get me more pressure from my opponent. Within like a few pokes, the Law is going to make up this damage, right? With one down back 3 and maybe like some extra poke, he'll bring that damage back up. But if you instead did forward 2-1 and then got a decent combo out of it, right? And your combos are solid, so I don't have to worry about you dropping them. The Law is going to have to do a lot more work to close the gap. And those are things we're trying to point out of like I try not to harp on matchup stuff too much, but I think general punishment such as the opponent doing a toe kick at the wall, really want to optimize those opportunities. Anything launch or any sort of big damage you can get, really want to optimize it. Because if we go back into the neutral, actually what happens here? Rip. Right? Look at this. What about this situation is really creating pressure? You press the down forward 1, you're only at -1, and then you decide to back off, right? How are you creating pressure here? The Law doesn't have any incentive to challenge you on anything. He doesn't... Oh, did I go too far? He still has a lot of life to work with. He's not in rage. He's not very much at low health where one combo is going to kill him or one punish. One wall splat, excuse me, is going to kill him. So think about it. Like, how are you going to how are you going to create, like, make your opponent panic? How are you going to force them into making a mistake, right? So that's what I was talking about earlier, right? You either have really optimized punishes, right? Or you do a lot of aggressive poking. So here, the option, the route should have been big punish combo, but it doesn't happen. Understandable, fine, right? Here, right, you get a jab, you're +8, right? +8, this should have been a throw, right? Something that ideally keeps the wall, but whatever. It's like, you're +8. Okay, cool. So you go for down forward 1 as a safety strat. Okay, cool. That's also fine, right? But then after the down forward 1, you back off. Why? Why did you back off, right? -1 isn't a lot, right? I felt like it's the same situation. Think about it when you press down forward 2 against him. Did he punish it optimally? What did he do after? He did like his own weird ass, like he did like down 2-3 or something, right? Nothing that was really scary because he's not really taking his turn as scary as he could be, right? Like if he blocks down forward 2 and he doesn't punish it, but then he goes for something like down 2-3 instead of something like Dragon Hammer, is that really a scary situation? Right? You're very controlled, right? You're not mashing, you're not going to get counter hit by anything, and he's pressing counter hit launchers into you. So that's nothing to be scared of, right? So think about these situations. Think about what your opponent likes to do. Process that information quickly. I'm talking about the ideal situation, but obviously it's a lot easier said than done. But just, I feel like the overarching theme here is you could have been a bit more greedy and stood to gain more. And it's important to recognize, like, when are those opportunities? Why could you have been a bit more greedy, right? Because this law is not optimizing punishes. He's not optimizing pressure when he could get like a big pressure opportunity, even if he fucks up the punish, right? Like after down 4-2, even if he fucked up the punish, he could have gone for something like Dragon Hammer, but he goes for down 2-3 against you, who has shown at no point that he's really mashing things out, right? Like you're taking a very measured approach, and this guy looks at that and goes, I'm gonna press my counter hit launcher. And to me, that doesn't seem like someone who's really in the driver's seat, right? They're just kind of like, it's the same issue of they're not taking into account what the opponent is doing. They're just kind of enacting their game plan and trying to force that through, right? So whatever. But yeah, so like right here, right, instead of backing off after the down forward 1, doing another jab, and if the jab hits or even if it gets blocked, just immediately force the throw mix up, right? Like you're doing a lot of mids, and I think you've softened them up enough where I think a throw would be good, right? And that's the main thing. Like more aggressive poking or even a low. Actually, right here, no. If you did down forward 1 into throw, I don't think he would have ducked. But anyway, and then right here, something like wall standing 2, huge punish opportunity, nothing happens, right? It's recommending dark upper. Don't know why it does that. Just do forward 2-1. Just do shoulder, right? Like, again, if you're not going to be aggressively pressuring them with your pokes, you need to make sure you optimize your punishment, because that's how you'll get your pressure out of it, right? Good disruption. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, you got a hit, and then you went for forward 3 again, I guess. I think you're too scared of him ducking. And maybe this is a result of the previous matches you played with this guy. I'm not entirely sure. But I feel like you're not being as aggressive with throws as you could be. But it's whatever. Good poking. Nice. See, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like you're very patient, you waited, and then optimized punish. I mean, arguably it could have been dark upper, but like the wall was also really close. That's whatever. Just big punish opportunity, right? Solid. Oh, unfortunate. This one's pretty basic, right? Like, you know he likes to press on wake up, right? He pressed toe kick at the wall. I'm sure he's done other stuff on Oki before. Here, I think you were too, like, you weren't really aware of that fact, or you're just too greedy. I don't know why you even bothered with the sidestep. You don't really need to do that, right? Like, think about it like this. Okay. Face down, feet away is one of the worst Oki positions to be in, right? The only time this situation is even shittier if he was face up, feet away. That is like the absolute worst Oki position to be in, right? It's like why Paul back 1-2 was so fucking busted in season 1, right? So taking that into account, right? All the shit he does, if he does get up low, it's punishable. If he does get up mid, it's punishable, right? You'll wall splat him and just kill him. If not, wall combo will kill him, right? He doesn't have access to toe kick, right? If he does forward spring roll or whatever, right? Cross chop, whatever his version of it is, you can just see that and be like, oh, I'll just press down 2 and then slam him back onto the ground, right? So why the sidestep, right? What were you afraid of? What was he going to do? Right? Did you do down forward 3? Why? So down forward 3. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, right? Why does down forward 3 have a low hitbox? I don't know. That should have been forward 4. Just, you know, optimizing your pressure a little bit. That's whatever. But does he even finish the combo? He does. You do die. Unfortunate. Duck that. It's mid high. Not much else to say. Unfortunate. Now he's punishing you. Yeah, alright, we'll talk about. Nice. He should have killed you. Nice. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He techs it. It's unfortunate. So that one, I feel like you could have gone for something with a little bit more context, right? Think about it. I mean, this is more stage awareness. Like you were not going to get the wall at this angle and this stage, right? So something that instead pushes him more into the wall, right? So like headbutts, muscle buster, that leaves him more towards the wall, right? So something to consider. I mean, I guess buffering giant swing is a lot faster, but I feel like he has more bufferable throws, right? Muscle buster was made bufferable, or Hades drop, whatever the core circle back thing, or core circle back 1+2 throw is, right? So that's also something to consider of just kind of like better situational awareness on the throws. I don't know what he's breaking because we can't see his inputs, but if you can, so if you choose left or right on when you do replay, and the inputs will follow that player, right? So if you chose to watch the game from the loss perspective, so if you started on the right side, it'll show his inputs. So like right here, you can check and just see like, okay, what is he pressing here? What did he think he was going to break? And I felt like if you could have gone for a throw, honestly, even if you broke the throw, like what's the worst that could happen, right? Breaking the throw lets you keep up the wall pressure and the positioning, which I felt was more valuable. But in the heat of the moment, obviously, you go for giant swing. You're like, if it hits the wall, he's dead. And if it doesn't, I mean, whatever. It's not the end of the world. But because you have a lot of time left on the clock, I think that's okay. So, yeah, I don't know. This is more of a opinion side of things. This isn't really like an objective kind of like a, hey, you were unoptimal here, right? I think either decision could have worked. And in the heat of the moment, going for giant swing is not like the worst idea. So that's fine. Alright, but how do you handle the neutral situation? Nice! Nice! Exactly! Sick! Beat his ass. Unfortunate. So, yeah, I'll say this. Like, I really like how you handle the wake-up situations. I feel like you're a bit more creative with your wake-up than before. A lot more like movement around. Experiment a bit more, right? Sometimes you want to remember there's a lot of things you can do when you're on the ground, right? So getting up quickly into wall standing 4, rolling into different directions, always vary it up. Just, never let your opponent know what your next move is. That's fine. Okay, wait. Yeah, that's really far. That's fine. Unfortunate. Oh, are you dead? Very close. Nice. Fight back, fight back. Yeah, get out of there. Oh, you tried. He's not optimizing punishes. Ooh. Okay, so this is a very close round. I felt like it could have gone either way. But okay, let's look at these last few interactions. That's solid. Another thing to consider is like, yes, you're going for instant shining wizard, which might be like you got the muscle memory for it, but why not also do something like a crouch dash throw, right? I'm not saying what you did was wrong. Actually, honestly, maybe it was, because look at this, right? So you do shining wizard, you got some chunky damage, cool, and look at this horrible positioning you're in, right? You get to recover. Both players get to recover, and then now you have nothing going for you. You have a very low life lead. I mean, you have rage, and your rage drive into any of the decent throws would likely kill, which is fine. But it's like, if you instead did something like, okay, here you do crouch dash throw, you do choke hold, and then let it go, right? Because you did giant swing, so okay. You do choke hold, or whatever it is, neck snap, whatever the fuck it is, sleeper, and then you reverse the positioning. Now the law's back is to the wall, and you are standing. Yes, it is much less damage than Shining Wizard. But like, Shining Wizard leaves you in such a fucking horrible position. I don't think it's what you wanted. Yeah, the chunky damage is ideal, but I felt like you would have been in a much better position if you sacrificed some damage and instead cornered the law, right? Because now you have the wall to work with, which makes your throw game and all your other shit like way scarier, right? So yeah, I think in the future, if you're in this similar type of situation where your back is to the wall and you kind of have like a big opportunity come in, like from down back 4 or down back 2-4, I think you should consider other options. Like, yeah, the CD throws aren't as powerful, but like you taking some sacrifice of damage for instead way better positioning that makes all your other tools now scarier. Think about it, right? Like, I mean, I feel like you understand. I shouldn't harp on this too much, but I'll just say this, right? What's scarier, right? What's scarier for the law? The position he's left in after this throw, or if you just did sleeper and now his back is to the wall, right? Now, obviously, it's the damage is a lot to work with. Now he's in like kill range of rage drive into maybe a throw, right? Tough to really say. I'm always, this is more of a playstyle difference, right? I always value positioning over just kind of like this momentum and damage, because I mean I play Paul, so it's kind of different, but I just don't like the positioning Shining Wizard leaves you in. It's just sucks. It's just really shitty. Yeah, like sure, ooh, it's Shining Wizard, ooh, it's unseeable, whatever. Like, it's just such a shitty situation for you. It's just kind of like, all right, reset to neutral, I guess. But in these situations, like, you need all the advantage you can get, and I'm just not feeling it, right? It's just me being a hater. Ignore me. I'm just being a hater. Whatever. Anyway, but take it into account. Think about it. Think whatever fits your playstyle best. Okay, so like right here, right? Why go? Just be like, okay. He chips you with the low. He doesn't. He just kind of holds back, right? I don't know. You're +2. It's kind of tough. I feel like it was a gamble, but I feel like you needed a big momentum swing, and I think just going fuck it rage drive right there in that situation would have worked out in your favor. But it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. You went for forward for initial 2, which isn't the worst thing. He doesn't even punish it. Like, you should have just died right then and there, and he doesn't punish you, so it's like, whatever. You got knowledge checked. Low period, I guess. That's whatever. Okay. Neutral. Punishment / matchup knowledge, combo / Oki, personal opinion stuff. Neutral. Solid improvements, right? I feel like you're playing a lot more compact, which is good, but now you have to start focusing on how do you make that compact gameplay more effective. For some people, it's a lot of aggressive poking and then knowing when to pump the brakes and then just stop so they don't overextend, right? That's just something you figure out. You can look at a lot of like Jamie's gameplay that he posts on there. He plays very compact, plays a lot of aggressive poking, just constantly chipping down the opponent, right? But then he doesn't go for any big risks. He doesn't bother taking any big risks. Another player to look at would be someone like Nee, right? Super compact, but always very just kind of poking, trying to control the situation, but never overextending, right? And then the other route is, again, just kind of like, oh, yes, I'm not going to overextend. I'm not going to press a single fucking button. I'm going to be this solid wall. But the moment you press a button and make a mistake, I will murder you, right? Those are, it's not the only options you have available to you, but it's like the two most common ones, like the two most obvious ones. And you need to figure out what is your style of gameplay, right? What do you feel is going to be the best to like support and augment your gameplay? I think your foundation's solid. I just think now you need to start building on it and start trying to figure out how to maximize your options, right? How do I make my options more effective? What are the routes I can take in my gameplay to do so? And that's just for your gameplay, right? I'll talk about this in punishment / matchup knowledge. Other aspects of neutral. I mean, nothing at the moment. I mean, nothing really stood out to me as kind of like a, hey, you really need to work on this type deal. I already said my piece of what I felt was the critical kind of like, hey, what's going on here type situation. Oh, I mean, I guess I don't want to talk about the down forward 2 situation more, but just kind of like, focus more on information gathering, right? You should be, as you avoid these risks and focus on a compact gameplay, you should be utilizing your information gathering tools a lot more, right? Yeah, that goes into the aggressive poking style, and if you're not good at it, I mean, you can also just try to get good at it, or if you just don't like that play style, right? Just you still need to add it into your gameplay for situations like, okay, cool, I press forward for initial 2, I'm not confident enough to go for a throw, so I will instead go for something safe and less committal, like down forward 1, right? Like, I do feel like you've improved. You're not doing like these big commitment options, but now it's kind of like these subtle situations where I feel like you're committing more than you realize, and you're not maximizing what you can be doing with it, right? And this goes into punishment / matchup knowledge, right? Punishment, right? Optimizing punishes. Look out for situations where you could have optimized a bit more, and just focus more on implementing that into your gameplay. It's a fundamental of Armor King. It's all he's got. There's not really an easy situation here. You just do it, right? Now, other thing to consider is also just look at what your opponent does, right? Look at all the mistakes that he's making and just factor that into your gameplay. If he's not block punishing down forward 2, if he's not pressing after down forward 2, if he's not block punishing or duck with punishing your throws, stuff like that, like, you're just kind of like, oh, I can maybe get away with a little bit more stuff. So maybe you can take more risks for greedier rewards, right? Another thing to consider is just kind of like, oh, this goes into Oki, so I'll talk about that later. But just, just more information on your opponent. How often is he ducking? Is he flash ducking? How often, what is he breaking often? Stuff like that. And to better, augment your gameplay and formulate like a clear and more concise plan. Matchup knowledge, there's some punishes you missed. Look up a video, practice it, do what you can. There's not much to say there, right? Maybe there's like more like, oh, how you're approaching the law matchup could be better. I don't know. I felt like you played it fine, but if other people have things to say, it is what it is. Combo / Oki. Combos were solid, right? Really solid combos. No complaints there. Oki, right? This goes back into you are not looking at the screen. You're not looking at what your opponent is doing and kind of formulating a game plan around that. This law just loves to press wake up kicks and pressing on wake up, right? Be more cognizant of that fact and just kind of hang back a little bit for more, rewarding punishes. Or if you're kind of like, well, I'm not wary of that. I think there are better options you could be using to cover more options, right? Just if you're on wake up, go in training mode, see how much frame advantage you have, right? And then look at options that you have. It's like, okay, based on the frame advantage I'm left at after this wall combo or after this situation, do I have enough frame advantage to press a rewarding option that beats get up kicks? If the answer is yes, and the answer should be yes, honestly, you just press that option, right? Like, I think the frame situation you have after forward 2-1, like at the wall that I was talking about earlier, when he's face down, feet away, right? You have more than enough advantage where forward 4 will cover everything the law does, besides maybe rolling on the floor. And if he's rolling on the floor, you're kind of like, all right, cool, he's rolling on the floor. Let me focus on making sure I maintain a strong position on the stage, right? But just a little bit more effort or a little bit more work on, hey, what is my opponent doing and how can I use that against them type situation. Personal opinion stuff. I don't feel like you're maximizing your potential with jabs. I felt, you could definitely be doing a lot more aggression with jabs. And if you're worried about them challenging you or something, there's always 2-1 and you can just keep looping that situation in your favor. Because this Law's movement was just kind of trash. Like, he's not really sidestepping you a lot. He's not really doing anything that warrants being scared and using forward 3-4 a lot or using down forward 2 a lot, right? So you're kind of like, oh, this dude's not moving. All right, let me just do 2-1 a lot and see what he does type situation. How much is 2-1 on block, actually? It's -1 on block? What the fuck? Yeah, if it's -1 on block, just keep doing 2-1 in his face. See what happens, right? Because it's like, he's not moving around. He's not really... If he challenges you with, like, really slow stuff... And I felt like even something like down 2-3, like, you'll do the 2, which will whiff, and then the 1 will hit them, and then you're like, cool, I'm +7 again. Time to whatever, right? So, what else? Personal opinion stuff. Yeah, so I think you could be maximizing your jabs, but that's a whole different situation. That's a whole different video I don't want to talk about. But just think about, like, how can you be maximizing your jabs? How can you be using one jab a lot more? So we can talk more about optimizations when you figure out what you like to do, right? Are you someone that's going to be like, I'm going to focus on optimized punishes? Like, okay, cool, so we can work on that, right? I'll have more feedback on that area. Or are you someone that's like, I want to optimize by putting on more pressure through poking my opponent, and we can work on that. Try to experiment with it, and then, figure out what your playstyle works with, or what maybe your current playstyle doesn't work with it very well, but you want to actually focus on it and improve it. But again, it's just all about, where do you want to go with your Tekken gameplay? And then go that way. Right? Alright, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you, like usual, if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to talk about, you're like, hey, what the fuck are you talking about here? Hey, what does this mean, that mean? Feel free to ask in the Discord. Either myself or anyone, really, because all the people in the Discord are cool, will respond when they can. Alright? Have a good one.